How do you put together a score for a film or a TV show? Let's find out today. Welcome to Inside Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm Devon Jones, a military veteran turned filmmaker. I found my spark in the military, and now I'm here to help you find yours. Inside Plug is a platform for your voice, stories to be shared, and ideas to flourish. Let's dive in and plug into creativity and entrepreneurship together. Today, welcome back, we have Ryan Marth. He's a film and TV composer. He worked on a short called Through the Stars. He also worked on another short called Martyr of a Forgotten Dream. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Devon. What's good, man? Thanks for having me back. Happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. So being a film and TV composer, can you share with us just a little bit how do you get into that field and what sparked your interest?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot like any other kind of, field in film and television or entertainment, whatever. There's no like one path on how you get there. You kind of just get there however you get there. And for me particularly, I got started out playing in bands. I played in some punk rock, hardcore bands, rock and roll bands. I signed a major record label deal and toured for about 10 years. So that was kind of my musical genesis in that regard. And then I got into film composing because after, you're on tour for that long and, there's, the music industry is kind of a mess in particular. And at the time when I was coming up, there wasn't really a lot of money in it if you were playing in a band. We weren't like I wasn't a pop star or something like that, where there's like this machine behind you. And I kind of just got tired of living like a pirate, not having any like financial security. Kind of wanted to just kind of live a more stable life. And so from there, I kind of got my start in television I worked at the ABC affiliate here in Seattle, where I'm from. It's called Como TV. It's the Seattle news station. And I got started working there as an intern and started just running teleprompter. And it was a 6-month internship, and they were on a hiring freeze. So I didn't really have a lot of hope of staying on there, but I did know my way around an audio board because I'd been making records for, 10 years at that point, over 10 years. And so I just started coming in on my off hours, and I made friends with as many people as I could and just kind of said, hey, if I buy you lunch or whatever, would you just teach me what you do? And so I learned a lot of different things like how to run cameras, how to run the robotic cameras, how to run the soundboard. They were just letting me run shows and stuff like that. And I just happened to get super lucky where the lead audio engineer there had retired. And right at the time my internship was ending. And so I already knew how to run the soundboard and I kind of knew how to do it all. So they just hired me on to fill that slot that was gone. So I worked there for a few years. Most news stations are automated now. So you program it in, you press a button and then the fader goes up. So you don't really need audio people. I mean, a lot of news stations don't for just regular news. And so from there, I got a job at a studio with another film composer, and I started working with him and working on some productions. And that's kind of how I got my feet wet in film composing before, I broke out on my own and started doing it full time.
Nice.
And that's kind of how I did it.
That's awesome. So could you share with us how did that first project go for you? How was the experience with that?
The first film that I worked on?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the first film that I worked on was, you don't really get handed a feature film to work on. You kind of have to come in as a music department person. At least that was my experience. I mean, I'm sure some people it's a lot about who you know. It's a lot like acting or any other thing. There's no one way that people break in. You just kind of get in wherever you can. So for me, my first real opportunity was working in the music department on this feature film called Ragamuffin. It was on Netflix, and my mentor, the guy who I started working with at that studio, his name is Sam Stewart. Shout out Sammy, love you. He was a great guy, took me under his wing. He brought me in, and I played piano. I was just a musician on the score that him and the other guy who was scoring it, Gabe Martinez, that they wrote. And they wrote a really cool score. And so I was just a musician. And that's kind of how I got my first kind of credit that way. And then from there, I had been writing with Sam, and then we had started, we composed for a mini documentary, and that was kind of my first real crack at composing. And that documentary is called Mayor of Ballard. You can go check it out if you want. It's a really cool documentary. And it was a lot of fun, man. There's no one way to score a film. It depends on what the director wants and kind of like what the nature of the film is and your timeline. And there's so many different factors that go into your approach for scoring a film. There's some things that are always the same, but for that one, we just kind of wrote, I don't know, probably 4 to 5 different cues. And then, I was off and running.
Nice. All right. So I like how you said like each film is like different the way you compose it. Let's talk about some of your the current projects. So Through the Stars. How did you come across that project, and what was your creative process for composing that one?
Yeah, so Through the Stars was kind of always a passion project of mine. I had been working and scratching and clawing my way up. It's a journey. Any artistic endeavor many times just comes down to war of attrition. It's just like, how long can you last to get your opportunity? It's like I said, there's a lot of parallels to like actors. Any actor listening to this we're speaking the same language. It's just, you just keep plugging away until you get your break, and I had been plugging away, and I had just thought to myself one day, like, what kind of movie, if I could score any film, what type of movie would it be? And then I just came up with this idea of a story, and so I wrote it. I wrote the script for Through the Stars, and it was just kind of like a creative exercise for me. I had this idea, and I just kind of wrote it down and tried to write it in such a way that it would be easy to shoot. I didn't know what I was doing, obviously, because if you want to write something easy and cheap to shoot, don't put it in a forest in the middle of the night. That's my first tip. Except I didn't know anything about lighting and how hard that would be to light a middle of the forest at midnight. But that's another story. But so I just wrote this script, and then I just started reaching out to different friends that I'd worked with on films in the past. And I said, hey, I got this script. Would you want to take a look at it? And I don't know, it could be something cool. It might be a passion project we could do. And a lot of people just really liked the script, and they were like, this would be a lot of fun to do. We should just do it. And so I then found myself in the position that I had to become an executive producer. It's like, well, how are you going to pay for this? So I had to go out and raise a bunch of money and bring other producers on board. And from there we got that thing going and crewed up and casted it and shot it out in New York, in upstate New York, in the middle of the woods out there. And so the scoring process was a little bit different. Like I had said earlier, every project is different approach on how you score it. This one was different because I was kind of the boss, which was not a ideal situation. I mean, maybe it could be like it's like you would think that's a win, right? Like you can just do whatever you want, but the downside to that is you don't really have people like telling you what to do. So you're kind of just out on an island, and you kind of have to just do your best. And I had help. I had people but I just basically wrote a bunch of music, and I did a lot of pre-production for that. I wrote I don't know, probably 40 minutes of music for a 20-minute film. And then we kind of just whittled it down from there. I had help from the director, Ariel Danziger. He was amazing to work with. So I leaned on him a lot. Our editor, Paul LaCalandra, leaned on him a lot. Our other executive producer, Lisa Carr, leaned on her a lot. Tried to keep it collaborative, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of synthesizers, and a lot of live strings. I used live strings from the Seattle Symphony, different guys from there. Andrew Jocelyn, he plays violin, I think, maybe viola. Anyway, he plays for Macklemore, and so here in Seattle, and he's a part of the Seattle Symphony, and so I leaned on him a lot for orchestration and different live instruments and tracking the strings for me on that. And that's kind of how that one went down. And you can check that soundtrack out wherever you stream music if you were curious to hear how that turned out. Nice. Oh, and the film, I should mention, after our film festival run, we did a distribution deal with Dust. So if anybody's into like sci-fi, independent sci-fi movies, you'll know what Dust is. It's just like a really big sci-fi independent film channel. They have a channel on YouTube, so you can go to YouTube and search Through the Stars. You could watch there if you want.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll put that link in the comment section of this interview. Definitely check that out. Also, where's some of your social media pages that they can check out some of your work?
Yeah, so you can check out some of my work on, if you just go to my Instagram, I got a link there that kind of links up what's happening right now. So my Instagram handle's at Ryan Marth Music. You'll see some stuff there. If you click on my bio, you can check out. I just worked on a feature documentary film for National Geographic that's streaming now on Hulu and Disney Plus that you can check out. It's called Path of the Panther. Currently nominated for an Emmy, which is huge. Hopefully we win. Fingers crossed. Nominated for Best Nature Documentary, I believe. So I'll be tuning in on September 15th to see if we got that. I was an additional composer on that. Kevin Matley was the lead composer on that. He brought me into his music department, and I got to write some music for that, which was a blast to do. So, yeah, you can check that out now, too, as well. So I got that all linked up.
Nice. I know you do a good amount of names out there who collaborated with you on your projects. Who could you share who were some of your inspirations?
Yeah, you mean musically, like composers that I look up to?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love Johan Johansson. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but I remember just watching Sicario and just being blown away by his music. Of course, Thomas Newman, James Newton Howard, Hans Zimmer, of course, Alexandra Desplat, Dustin O'Halloran, Atticus Finch. That's a character from a book. Sorry, I named my son after him because I love that character in To Kill a Mockingbird. No, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is what I meant to say. Yeah, so those are probably my bigger musical influences as far as composing goes.
So there another film that you worked on, Martyr of a Forgotten Dream. Can you share about that with us?
Yeah, so Martyr of a Forgotten Dream was a lot of fun. That's a neo-Western film that was written and directed by Ben Rummins. And Ben brought me on, funny enough, the director of photography from Through the Stars worked on Martyr of a Forgotten Dream. So I met Ben through him. That's Waleed Sakar. Shout out Waleed. He's an incredible DP. Anyway, so yeah, that's just it's a neo-Western film and out of New York. And it's just about a guy who his family home is being repossessed by the police, and it ends in a standoff between the guy who doesn't want to get kicked out of his house that he was born in and the sheriff and the bankers. And that was a really, really cool project. I'd never done a neo-Western film before, so it kind of the music ended up being a mix between, your old Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns mixed with like Ozark and I guess maybe Sicario too. So a mix of those three types of things. So it's a modern take on a spaghetti western score. So we used a lot of traditional instruments you'd think of, like harmonica and acoustic guitar, but we also used like a cello was the lead instrument a lot, an upright piano, maracas, claves, a lot of just like any like those, like a lot of like the handheld old world percussion instruments. We used a lot of that. And I was happy with how that turned out. That did great. That score got nominated at for best score at Film Quest, which is a really awesome genre film festival. Love that film festival. So that was awesome to get recognized there by that festival. But yeah, that film is still out doing the rounds. I think it's just wrapping up its festival run now. Oh no, actually it did finish. It just wrapped up its festival run, and you can watch that now on Film Shortage. So if you just Google Film Shortage, Martyr of a Forgotten Dream, you can go watch that film. It was a lot of fun, and you can listen to that score also wherever you stream your music if you want.
Nice. Yes, go check that out. Martyr of a Forgotten Dream. Here's a question I have. So for any aspiring composer, you mentioned soundtracks that I'm going to check out. What would be, if not your top 3, what's a soundtrack that you recommend for aspiring composers out there to take a listen to?
Well, I think it really just depends on, you ask 10 different composers that they're going to give you 10 different answers. For me, I think if you want to be a film composer, chances are you heard a score that spoke to you, that made you decide that in the first place. And so you kind of already have this idea of what kind of score you would want to do. A lot of people say, in the industry, you got to be able to do everything. And I guess there's some truth to that too. But I also think be the composer that you dream of being, and what are those scores that you dream of composing like? You got to find your own voice too. So while you do need to know how to orchestrate, you do need to know certain aspects of how to compose. You do need some semblance of music theory. Hans Zimmer he's not a classically trained composer. And so you don't have to do all these big hoops. You just have to know how to get across what you hear in your head and how to get it into a recording. And so, for me, I think there are certain film scores that stick out in my mind that I really love. I love this film score for the movie. I think it was called Lion. It was by Dustin O'Halloran, and it's just really elegant piano. It's just simple piano, very powerful score, and that doesn't have like this big bombastic, thing like you'd hear from Hans Zimmer on Dune, let's say. Although that's that's by no means me saying that one is better. I love Hans Zimmer, and which is kind of an easy answer. That's kind of like the one composer everybody on earth knows. But if you're interested in like a lot of like intensive orchestration, you should go listen to a bunch of John Williams. If you want to hear really out of the box compose like film scores, like you could listen to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. If you want to listen to, if you're really into film scores that are somewhat quirky, you could listen to Johnny Greenwood or I don't know. You just got to figure out what your lane is, like what kind of scores speak to you, and then go look up who that composer is and listen to as much of their work as you can, and then just keep finding other music. Just listen to as many as you can, I would say.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. All right. So we're right at the tip of the interview right here. I know you just told the audience to listen to a bunch of soundtracks, try to find their voice, but is it something that you can share with them that can help them a bit more with that creative process, like something that they can do that they wouldn't, kind of like thinking outside the box?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people think that you have to have a lot of expensive gear and a lot of really fancy keyboards or instruments to make this really great and compelling score. And the hard truth that nobody wants to hear, I certainly didn't want to hear it, and I would be annoyed when people would tell it to me, but it's just really true, is it's like, you can find a lot of really compelling ways to make an awesome film score with nothing. The old standby example people use is like, if you go listen to Son House, he has a song called Smiling in Your Face, and he doesn't even use a guitar. He's just clapping and he's singing a song, and it's incredible. It's an incredible song, and it's just a guy clapping and singing. And I would say that really transfers over to film scoring too. If you have just access to a piano, and that you can record with a tape recorder, I mean, your creativity is your only limit. You can do amazing things with a tape recorder and an upright piano, and just experiment. Get as many weird sounds as you can, and try and think as out of the box as you can while staying loyal to the heart of the story, and you will make an incredible film score. And it will sound like nobody else, because I guarantee you everybody else is going to be trying to use all the plugins, all the sample libraries, trying to use like their $2,000 string sampling libraries from Spitfire or wherever, and they all sound the same. There's no soul there. Like there's no, like, that's why I was saying, like, you got to find your voice. But your score with your stand-up piano and your tape recorder is going to sound wholly and completely unique, and it will sound like nobody else's film score, and people will notice that. So think that way, like, and maybe this is just like me coming from punk rock, where it's like, there are no rules. Like, there are certain rules, but know them just so you know how to break them. Don't know them because you have to follow every single one all the time. That would be my biggest piece of advice. Like, get creative. Like, constraints can be a beautiful playground to play within.
All right, nice. That's awesome. All right, everyone, remember, get creative and find your voice. Ryan, thank you so much. All right, thanks for tuning in to Insight Plug. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it inspiring. Remember, every journey begins with a single step, and every creator has a story worth sharing. If you love what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on insightplug.com. That's www.insightplug.com. Remember, your feedback helps us bring you more content. Until next time, keep creating. Devon Jones signing off. Stay inspired. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 9 a.m. in the morning. Ryan, thank you again.
Thanks, Devon. Happy to be here, man.